Hi everyone, welcome back to another analysis video, and in this particular one I wanted to have a look through one of my games that I played actually over a month ago now in one of the local leagues that I play in. I've been a bit lazy with a lot of my analysis videos over the recent months. I've been playing quite a lot of Blitz, making videos, but I haven't actually been looking properly at my own games for quite some time. And I've got about 5 games in the pipe works that I'm going to be trying to upload over the next few days. As well, I think it was a good idea for my own improvement to be at least analysing at least one game a week. And I'm trying to set a target for myself, for my own personal development, of at least trying to do one game. At least do all my analysis before I start a new long classical game. So in any case, in this particular one, so once again, this was a long classical game. The time controls of this one online was 45 minutes plus 15-second increments, so 15 seconds added on after each move. My opponents, I've actually played him in real life over the boards. I beat him quite quickly last time we played. It was something like 20 moves in a Schliemann, weirdly enough. I think he's about maybe 100 ECF or somewhere along those lines. So not the highest rated opponent, but it's interesting. His Lichess rating is really high, over 2,000. So I wonder if I kind of find those interesting. When you get those really strong players in online, but not as strong over the board. But any case, so this particular game I was playing as white. Didn't really have too much to look at with my opponents. Sometimes I can do a bit of prep before the match, but my opponent didn't have that many games on there because it's a relatively new account. So I was kind of playing blind. I thought I'll just play something a little bit fun against him. So I started with d4. d5 was played, and I've been playing around with the Black Mardima, particularly in Blitz games. I'm really enjoying it as a really fun gambit to play, and even in serious matches, it's not a bad little gambit. White gets a lot of initiative for the gambited pawn. The downside of this is, well, Black can transpose with e6 or c6 into a Caro-Kann or a French. So basically here c6 we've transposed into a Caro-Kann. I'm not too interested in playing the main lines. I actually quite like the advanced variation when I do play against the Caro-Kann. I used to play this quite a bit. I don't play it as much as I used to. I think I've actually for a long time I was playing the two knights attack, which I quite like actually against the Caro-Kann as well. But here we've got the advanced variation. White is moving his pawn forward, gaining a little bit of space on Black's position. But of course, he's given Black a free move to do something. So he's put bishop to f5, get his bishop outside of the pawn chain. He doesn't want to entomb it after e6. And here I play knight to e2. A bit of a weird move order, but the idea is I want to get my knight to g3 and then hopefully push this pawn forward to try and trap this bishop. This bishop is quite funny actually. Ironically, in the French we often talk about this being a terrible bishop, but in the Caro-Kann, although you can get the bishop outside the pawn chain, pretty much more often than not this bishop ends up becoming a problematic piece anyway. So I always find that quite funny. But anyway, so e6 is played, the knight to g3. So now hitting the bishop. So I fully expected bishop to g6 to be played, and the line would continue something like h4, h6, maybe h5, bishop tucking back, and something like this. This is all known theory, very very common opening. It's interesting actually. I'm looking at the database because I've played this a lot and over the board chess. It scores terribly on the database. 26% for white, 36% for black, which is interesting. I just wondered if it's any different on the Lichess one. Let's have a look. It scores quite well for white now, so there we go. learn something new. Right, so anyway, in any case, my opponent didn't play this, so he plays probably the first surprise of the game. That's the move knight to e7. Interesting move. I'm out of book now. I don't know if it's all that good, if I'm being honest with you. For the time being, in any case, this knight is blocking in this bishop. I don't have to take this bishop, although it looks incredibly tempting because I win the bishop pair. But I'm thinking retrospectively, perhaps instead of capturing, which is what I end up doing in the game, maybe something like c3 would be okay here. You know, and maybe my development, let's say, I don't know, knight comes to, well, let's say, can he play c5? Yeah, maybe can we do knight to d7? And then maybe just, I don't know, bishop here. This looks kind of normally looking stuff. I don't know, black's got some ideas maybe of pushing either c5. And it looks absolutely fine. This position is totally playable. You know, this knight's a little bit awkward to develop. You'd probably have to come over to g6 maybe, because obviously if it comes here, then you know, this knight then captures. So in any case, it's interesting anyway. So knight to e7. Now, what do I play against this? Well, I capture. Of course, it looks pretty good. And knight captures on f5. And, well, I guess here I play probably my first big mistake of the game. I don't know why I decided to play like this. I was thinking maybe, you know, I wanted to play a little bit aggressively, but sometimes there's aggressive and there's being too aggressive. And, well, I think this move isn't that good, but I wonder what you think about it. Let's see, g4 is what I was played, which is a bit of a problem for me now, because now I've essentially really can't, well, I can castle, but I'm endangering my position in doing so. You know, this knight I assumed would go back to maybe e7, where again it will clog up a bit of you know, black's development. But I guess what I didn't really think about, and I didn't think would be possible, is actually the move knight to h4, which is what was played. And that was a bit awkward for me. How do I get my guys out without, you know, running into some potentially annoying checks, you know, maybe like here or here. So I'm in a bit of trouble here. Going back, c3 again is probably just a fine move. Develop normally. I don't know, maybe bishop to e7, bishop to d3 is always an idea. I'm always threatening to exchange off this, you know, give back the bishop pair, but potentially double up these pawns here. There's always an option. Castles, castles. I think this is absolutely fine. You know, I can create a weakness here, but otherwise my plan is pretty simple. Get my pieces developed. I could look at ideas of this maybe. You know, start causing a little bit of problems for this this knight. You know, I don't know. Get my knight along here maybe. I honestly don't know. So it looks, my position looks absolutely fine. And I think what it comes down to sometimes when I play my games, you know, sometimes I play a bit too crazy, a little bit too aggressively, and I end up letting my position get a bit out of control as a result. And you know, I think it's much more important for myself in terms of my development to try and ensure I give myself a good position, but you know, just don't let it get out of hand. You know, I've got a good position, just keep maintaining the good position. Often, you know, wins just come naturally. You know, you get a good position, tactics suddenly flow on the board, and you should do absolutely fine. Okay, so going back to knight to h4, bishop to v. I mean, again, I just want to just quickly show you, compare this position, how this looks, and compare it to what was played. It looks a lot worse for white. So you know, that's something I at least tried to learn from this particular game. Anyway, bishop to d3, bishop to e7, c3, bishop to d7. Now it's interesting, I was really worried about c5 coming in here, and the computer really likes this particular line. The problem with it for me is after something like c3, knight to c6, I'm already in a lot of trouble. If I, let's say, castle in this position, do something like this, now I'd actually drop a pawn. The point being, after something like this, oh actually I tell a lie, not this continuation. If let's say I move my bishop back to defend this pawn, because I've now got a lot of pieces. If after captures, knight can actually capture here. The point being, queen captures. This is beautiful fork. And these were some of the little tactics I was kind of in the back of my head going, this doesn't look nice at all if I play against this. So already I'm going to just lose a pawn regardless. After a few captures, black is going to go up a pawn. But in any case, that wasn't played. So thankfully, my opponent bishop to e7, c3, knight to d7, castles, c5 now, and then f4. And here, I think my position started at least to destabilize a little bit here. Black hasn't developed in a particularly aggressive fashion. I think I'm doing alright. I can maybe get my bishop out, maybe queen here to defend the weak b2 square if the queen came out here. Maybe reroute. I don't know. Honestly, there's a few options, but I think I'm doing okay here. f5 was played. This is where the game got a bit weird, and certainly I perhaps could have played this a little bit better, as here I just miss a tactic. There's a few little tactics that I could have played, but what I should have done is realize that this pawn here on e6 is very weak. It's a backwards pawn, and also this knight here isn't the most isn't the best placed piece still. It's now no longer got this potential escape square here. So what I should have played in this position was e takes on f6. And now the point is, after, let's say, the bishop captures, I have this really nice move, queen to e1. Has the idea now of potentially snapping off oh actually no, I tell a lie. Instead of that, sorry, this move, g5, much better. So the point being, if let's say the bishop moves away, let's say over here, I've got this check, and if g6 is played, obviously the knight hangs. So let's say he tries to save the bishop, then here this beautiful sacrifice, and then win a rook. So that's one problem for him. If he takes with the pawn is the other way, then this is where queen to e1 is really good. So you can see here both the knight and the pawn are dropping. He can't save either of them. If he tries, obviously, knights to g6, we just capture here. Black's position is pretty bad. My queen is essentially going to be nomming on many pieces to come. So it's a shame I missed that, but again, it's all part of the learning process. I think I need to just, on the one hand, not play too aggressively, but on the other hand, keep looking for those tactics. f5 was certainly should have been a bit of an alarm bell for me, because it really doesn't look very good at all, this move. Any case, so what happened then? I captured with the g pawn. The knight captured back. I allowed the knight to get back in the game, but my compromise was, okay, well, I've got this potentially nice pawn for later on in the position. My queen came to h5. I just did some little bits of harassments. I was thinking of ideas of coming in here, but he was having none of that. He undevelops his bishop. My queen came back to h3. Queen to e7. I now get my stuff developed. And I've come out kind of the worst of the opening. The opening really wasn't very good for me at all. Normally, my openings tend to be my strongest point in my game, but here was not pretty. But I've come out of the position okay. I've got a nice space advantage. This open file, I can contest this quite easily. Black is still a bit underdeveloped. I don't know what he's going to do with this bishop. I think this queen e7 move was pretty rubbish when you think about what he's going to do about this bishop. And this rook is still on play. His king cannot castle. My king, okay, it's not the most safe king in the world, but at the same time there's not really any way that black can exploit the fact that it's not in the best position. So that's pretty good. So okay, queen came to e6. I'm guessing he wanted to try and get his bishop into play. I get my rook onto the open file. Knight to b8, a bit of an odd move, but now this allows me to take the open e file with a tempo. Bishop to c6, so I guess this was the idea of the b8 to get it onto this, but I guess it kind of walks into his own pin really here, which isn't ideal. So now this is where things get quite interesting. So I play queen to c3, now just re-attacking this knight, and king to d7. Again, this is where another tactic kind of sprung up out of the woodwork here, but it's a bit of a difficult one to spot. There's a little bit of calculating to do. Here I should have realized I've got this beautiful pawn on e6. If I pushed it here, this would have in fact been winning. If, let's say, king comes to d6, queen to b4 check, the point being, of course, if the knight captures, we can take with another check, and after, this king has nowhere to go, it can't go back to defend the queen, so let's say it takes this pawn, we can take this off. You count the material, you'll see that I am in fact up an entire minor piece. And well, okay, he's got a pawn for it, but I'm going to win a few more pieces in just a second. If, let's say, bishop came here, do you know what's wrong with just capturing here? I mean, okay, it's not the best move, but I can just consolidate my advantage and hopefully win the game from there. Okay, so going back, so I didn't play that, and I missed this move on a few occasions, unfortunately, which was a bit of a shame, as really, this is a real key move. So I played a3. Now bishop to e7. Now this tactic doesn't work anymore. I'll show you why. Is just simply because this rook now defends the queen. So after a move like this, if d6 came in, it may look good to throw in this check, but the problem is after the knight captures, I capture the queen. He can now recapture with his rook. It's no good. So I'll just show you what that looks like just for now. So again, I can take here, but he takes back with the rook. You'll notice this is a much different position. I'm in fact losing, so this is no good at all. Okay, going back, queen to h3. Queen to g8 was played. I thought this was a very odd looking move, but it was played, so there we go. I put my queen back to c3. His queen now came back to e6, so he actually improved his position slightly now. He's no longer got this pinned queen. You can now look at ideas of getting his rook onto c8. So I've kind of lost that initial advantage I had with that potential tactic. The queen came to d3. He put his rook to c8. I now played a4. So I now try to start pushing one of these pawns, create a weakness around his position. If I can get rid of one of these pawns, or at least move it off the way, I've got this knight coming in, which has a beautiful outpost on c5. So this is my thought process for the rest of the game. So a5 was played, king to e7. Not too sure what's going on there, but there's a couple of captures. I now jump my knight into c5. This allows a capture, but I come in with the rook. I've got a very nice dominant position here now. I've now switched the orders of the rook and the queen. I can now start doing all kinds of pins on this knight in this position. So in the game, what happened? King to f7 was played. I then put my queen to a6. Queen came to d7. I put my bishop to c3. There were some little tactics I think I could have played for, but I just wanted to shore up my position, just avoid any potential disasters here. So this just stops any weird checks or weird things from happening. So that's why I played a move like that. Queen to rook to c7. I now play b4. I'm going to start pushing this pawn to this square and really cause some damage in this position. Knight to b8 was their final blunder in the position, as now with the knight moving, it now allows queen to f6 with check, and after g8. I joke about the pawn missing this tactic like 3 or 4 times this game, but now finally e6, there we go. And my opponent resigns. So after e6, it's totally crushing. The point being, we'll go through some moves, but let's say if queen to e7 to stop them moving the pawn, I can now capture, rook capture. I can do 2 things here. I can I do this one? Is that alright? Yeah, I mean, this looks fine. I'm forking the knight and the king. Alternatively, the computer really likes this move instead. Again, similar idea. If rook captures, I can then throw in this check. Even better. So, still got a slightly, very, very good position here. Upper minor piece. I've got, potentially good pawns as well to play with in this position. So other things, maybe if let's say what my thought process was, maybe something like this could occur. Afterwards I can I can do this and start pushing this pawn down. There's not a whole lot that black can do here. I win a rook there. What else? I mean, there's really nothing that black can do. I was even looking at stuff like this, but after what can I capture this one? I think this is absolutely fine too. Knight comes here, throw in the check. We win. Yeah, everything's falling for black. So, this e6 move, it finally saved the day. But when it was played, I managed to then win this potential game. So, yeah, not the prettiest of wins, I'll be honest with you. I think I didn't play it as accurately as I would have liked in this particular game. But at least I was able to consolidate my advantage, play actually a nice positionally later on in the position, and finally push that e6 pawn to win the game. So that was pretty good. I guess learnings from this, I would say once again, don't play too aggressively, but always look for tactics. Always look for tactics and look for the weaknesses in your opponent's position. Okay, thank you for watching. I'll see you in another analysis video.